Week 9, we called it. We are finally back after a month hiatus, mostly because we didn't want to show up. Happy to be here, though, except for Connor isn't here, and neither is Anthony. So it's just me and Ken. I guess we're not all back.
We're doing our best. We're piecing it together. Life comes at you fast sometimes, then a month later you're back.
Well, you know what they say. Life goes by pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around every once in a while, you might miss it.
Thanks, Phil.
All right.
All right.
No, it's Ferris Bueller. All right, come on. Anyways, let's just get right into it. Since Connor's not here, we'll be able to cover all the games. Thursday night, we have Houston versus the Jets. New York is a 1.5 home favorite, and the total is only 42.5. Ken, we disagree on this one big time. So why do you like Houston so much?
Well, it's going to get a whole lot more boring after this one because this is the only one we disagree on. So it's pretty simple. Houston knows how to win, and the Jets know how to lose. Houston has not looked fantastic, yes, and they just recently lost their 2 receivers. They still have Tank Dell. I'm still believing in Tank Dell because I said I was doing it at the beginning of the year, and that's really the only hope that he's got. It's been pretty bad so far, but that offense, it looks very well balanced with Joe Mixon. CJ Stroud has not nearly played up to what everyone thought he would after his rookie year. But the main thing is the Jets just lost to the Patriots. Man, they are in disarray. Aaron Rodgers, he's making moves out there. He's firing head coaches. He's picking up, number 1 wide receivers. And it's just not coming together well. Yes, there are so many pieces. They are you're playing Madden on franchise mode with this team, but it's just not coming together. And I think that Houston, although of course it's scary because they are, Diggs really fit in there well, especially when Nico Collins was there. But I still think that this offense will be able to do enough, certainly keep it close. Aaron Rodgers loves to win by 1. I'm fine if he does that. But I think that Houston ends up coming out on top here.
It's funny. You're like, hey, Houston, they just barely win, and you have no idea how, and the Jets blow games left and right. To me, that says you should be betting on the Jets because they're undervalued, right? Because they should outperform how they have done historically, because they've been right there. They were 1 pass away from beating the Vikings. Rodgers overthrew Wilson, and then what was that? What was the next game after that one? Buffalo. Their freaking kicker couldn't hit like the broadside of a barn. He had 2 missed field goals and a missed extra point. And then, yes, I have no idea what that collapse was against the Patriots was. But, the Ravens lost to the Browns, too. Yet last week was just crazy. It was Halloween weekend, kind of. It was right in between.
Right in the middle. This game's on Halloween. This game is actually on Halloween.
Exactly. And Aaron Rodgers is going to put on his Green Bay Packer uniform and so will Devontae Adams. And they'll come out and crush the
Texans.
The Texans. I keep seeing Houston. I couldn't think of it. It's rough. See, this is what happens when you're not around for a while. Anyways, no, I'm with you, dude. CJ Stroud has been a major letdown, and with and without Nico Collins, it's starting to look like a pretty glaring problem for him. And I'm not saying it's all his fault, but I think long run, I think he'll be a great franchise QB. But without Nico, and the Jets can hone in on Tank Dell, they have physical corners, which is a problem for a guy as small as Tank. The only hope is for the Texans just to run through the Jets, and that is possible. But I think Jets just overcommit their resources and do everything they can to not let Mixon dominate this game. I don't know. I'm with you. Texans are overrated at 6-2, or they shouldn't be 6-2, and the Jets shouldn't be 2-6. I am thinking it starts to normalize again, and these two teams come back one game closer to the mean or average of what they should be like. So I got Jets -1.5.
I think you're too high on this Aaron Rodgers comeback thing. I think that he's about to give up. He's a quitter, man. That's what he is.
RELAX. That spells I might be wrong. All right. Denver versus Baltimore, next game on our list. Baltimore's a 9-point home favorite, and the total's 45.5. This game is completely ridiculous to me because what's Denver? 5-3, 5-2, something completely insane for a team to me that is like dysfunctional offensively at best and has a good defense, but just somehow, I guess Sean Payton's coaching just keeps getting them to win. So I don't understand why Denver's so good, and I'm mad that this line is over a touchdown, because if it was 7, I'd be taking Baltimore.
I completely agree, and it's Denver. Probably just that the good coaching. I agree. It's just you find games, you win the games you're supposed to. Bo Nix is out here making, when I say mistake-free football, I mean they're not even giving him the chance to make mistakes out there. For fantasy, he's been gold because he's been running the ball. I think he leads the team in rushing touchdowns by like a lot. But he still, those come with games where he has negative 10 yards passing at half. But they're just really not putting him in situations to lose here. And it's just the numbers too big. They're not going to be able to move the ball against Baltimore. Baltimore's going to be like, cool, pass it on us. You can't. And I just don't, just 9's too big. That's too open for a backdoor cover team that's been, keeping games close. So I could tease this one. This one isn't a bad tease game, but I'm out on that.
Well, it's also like the Ravens, I feel like they have a tendency to let their guard down, right? They were up 34-10 against the Buccaneers, like 10 minutes left in the game, and that game was 41-31 by the time the final whistle blew. So I just can't trust. Baltimore is just one of those teams, man. I think they show up for the best teams, and if you're not one of the best teams, they can let people like Jameis Winston, take them down. Even though Jameis, man, he threw that ball right to Kyle Hamilton. We'll get to that more on that later.
Oh, we will talk about the Browns. Don't you worry.
It's like we're from Cleveland. Now, next up, another game that I'm just like, man, if this was a couple more points, I would be in on it. Raiders versus Cincinnati. Raiders are 7.5-point favorites, and the total is 46.5. So I don't know what happened to T. Higgins, but man, the Bengals needed him. He's the worst practice player I've ever seen. For whatever reason, when he shows up to practice, his legs start popping.
I hate to say it. He's the new Alshon Jeffrey, where he would just pop up with these soft tissue injuries. And the only indicator of future soft tissue injuries is having previous soft tissue injuries. And that's that's like hamstrings, that's quads, that's calf strains. And unfortunately, that is just T. Higgins right now. Man. When he's out there, though, God, he looks so good.
I was going to say, like, the Bengals have really, like, in the recent years they've been successful. It's been, like, solid coach defense with a couple good players that were good, not great. And then it was Joe Burrow making plays and either Jamar Chase or T. Higgins being great in a game. That offense with Higgins, Chase, and Burrow has looked freaking amazing this year. I think PFF had Chase and Higgins as like top 10 receivers, and Burrow is like a top 3 quarterback. So they are just playing out of their minds, and it's unfortunate because I thought T. Higgins was really earning his next Browns contract. There's Browns contract next year, but it doesn't look like that'll be the case with another injury. But I don't know. Like, I want to take them. Their defense sucks though, and the Raiders, man, they keep the game so close.
So I just think that Chase Brown does look good out there, and he's bigger than people give him credit for, but it just doesn't seem like it as he plays. Just Zach Moss is clearly like the Zach Taylor type of running back. By the way,
this gives me too much PTSD when I was cheering for Nick Chubb, and it's like you're watching Carlos Hyde fall down 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, and it's like Nick Chubb's right there. Just gets the better player of the ball.
I really think that this offense is missing exactly what Joe Mixon's doing in Houston. But since I don't know, their defense has been like almost non-existent out there. Just 7.5 is too much to give to a team that's just, they're good, but they're just not playing up to it. So, and I'm just not betting on Las Vegas. There's just no chance. So, staying out of it. It might be a fun game to watch. Sometimes Minshew puts up some fun stuff. Loved watching the Cincy offense, but that 46.5 is a decent number. Too high, I'm not playing that. I'm just staying out of it.
Absolutely, completely agree. I don't even know what I would be interested. Like this game, these teams are just way too volatile. All right, so now we agree on this next one. After a dominating win over the Jets, probably one of the best teams in the league. And now the Patriots bounce back and are going to Tennessee after what was that, like a 38-point victory by the Lions. Tennessee coming in hobbled. Totals 37.5. The Patriots are 3.5-point road underdogs, and we are both taking them to continue their dominant win streak against the awful Titans. So why do you like them so much?
Well, first off, I do not like taking a team that just lost by 38 to lose. Like, I mean, it's just a comeback spot. Usually the number's too, inflated. And this one's not. I mean, I'm sorry. No, it definitely is. It's still inflated, but for the other team. I just think that, number one, they're demoralized. They're getting rid of all their players. If they're not trading them away, they're hurt. There's this Will Levis. I don't even know what they're doing. Like, I think he's supposedly still hurt, but Mason Rudolph, he's not doing anything particular. The only person, their best player on offense besides Calvin Ridley has been Tyler Boyd, who's just on his last leg there. But this team is just in complete disarray. And then New England, they certainly look like they have a little bit of new life in them since Drake May is in. Now I know. We'll see if he plays against the concussion protocol. It really, the good news is it's very predictable depending on how much they practice Wednesday, Thursday. You'll be able to tell. But either way, they just look a little bit refreshed, a little renewed. And I think that the defense is going to come to play. I think it's going to be a pretty boring score-wise game. That 37.5 is nice and low. Probably if I had to pick one way to go under, but just Tennessee shouldn't be 3.5-point favorites against anyone, and New England is anyone.
Yeah. So I just looked up the Titans games, and the only game they scored over 20 points was against the Dolphins, and that was that ridiculous game where the kickoff rules were made up on the spot, and the Dolphins got the ball on the 20 or something. And just let me tell you, I had the under in that game, and that was the biggest heartbreak ever. And it just hurts looking back now that knowing how bad the Titans are and that they've continued to be that bad, and it just bit me in the butt anyway.
I tried explaining the kickoff, like the new kickoff, and why it's bad to someone, where I was like, listen, Miami recovered this onside kick, and instead of having the ball at like the 35 or something, like wherever they got it, there's a penalty, and Tennessee gets it on or the other team's 20 going in. I have no idea how it changed that much.
Yeah, it was like Tennessee, the coach was screaming at his player for not catching the ball on a fair catch, and then they got the ball at the 20 instead of like
it's the most confusing 5 minutes I've had in football. I saw that it was on the 20. It was actually on my phone. I was like, well, they have it on the wrong 20. This happens all the time.
ESPN has it backwards. Yeah, that's normal. Oh my gosh. Anyways, so I'm with you, dude. Titans are, I think we said it coming into the year. They did everything they could to buy a good defense. And I don't think their defense is bad, but that means their offense is so terrible that their defense hasn't been good. And it's really unfortunate for them. So I am with you, just so out on the Titans, and they need a functioning offense, and it's they thought they were going to get it with by bringing in the Bengals OC, but clearly not happening. All right, so next up on the list, New Orleans versus Carolina. This is not. We're either gonna be really happy or pissed this week together. We both have the over at 43.5, and Carolina is a 7-point home underdog. So why do you like the over?
First off, are you really hoping Andy Dalton's okay to play? I'm really hoping
Very indifferent after watching Bryce Young. He screwed me out by getting a last-second touchdown. I had Cardinals under 13.5, and they scored a touchdown as time expired, or just about, with a 98-yard drive last week. It really hurt. But no. Bryce Young, he actually looked functional. He just had 3 red zone turnovers last week. So I think he can put up the garbage time points because Derek Carr is back. And I think we're going to see the New Orleans offense from early in the year against Carolina, who's just the worst defense. Bo Nix threw for 3 touchdowns against them, so it's not going to go well.
Yeah, so you remember when New Orleans had this amazing new offense? Who's their offensive coordinator? It's the son of somebody.
I don't know. Connor knows, and I'm sure he's very furious about who it is. I wish I looked it up. I'm on it though.
Oh, but either way, where they put up, they just
Kubiak. It's Clint Kubiak.
Yeah,
there
Clint
you go.
Kubiak. So they're just putting up 40 points a game, and they're just never ever gonna punt and stuff like that. And then since then, they're 0-6. And the one thing is, Derek Carr is certainly showing his value because that offense looked completely lost. Spencer Rattler, hey man, you got your chance a little too soon. You were a little too right, man. It's not good. But no, I think they're going to come out and score. Carolina, this is one of those things where that 7 it's just a junk time number. Like I'm New Orleans defense hasn't been that great as of late either. So we'll certainly see what they put up there. But this is one where it's like, cool, get Olave going, get Kamara going, and they're really just playing for value right now because they're at 2-6 as well. But
is Rashid Shaheed functional?
He's done for the year. No, he's done for the year.
Dang.
Yeah, he had torn meniscus.
See, like those are the things you miss when you really don't care about the teams because Spencer Rattler is quarterback.
I know.
Anyways,
my 3 fantasy teams with Rashid Shaheed certainly feel that missing, man. But
I was gonna say, so you don't remember, but when the team you and I drafted for Underdog has been killing it. It was a $25 league. It's actually the best team that I have. Rashid Shaheed was on it. That's the reason I asked, because I just did a quick check-in and saw that. But anyways, we got Jamar Chase, Saquon, Kyron Williams, and Ken Walker on the same team.
I remember because we were saying, why the hell are running backs just not going? Because no running backs went. Because like Joe Mixon was like a 5th or 6th round pick in a lot of these leagues. Would have been a great pick looking back at it. But just wide receivers nonstop. Like Michael Pittman's a solid 2nd, early 3rd round pick in these leagues, man.
Yeah, so I'd have to check, but we have good wide receivers, like the fine wide receivers. It was Chase and other people. I don't know.
You gotta
look it up another time.
Man. Yeah. Oh well.
It's just lucky. That's why you play your draft. Anyways, so yeah, I believe in the Saints too. Moving on. Dallas versus Atlanta. This is one of those games, dude. Like I am finding it so hard to not believe in Dak Prescott to win a crappy game in Atlanta against a team that I think Atlanta is, along with Houston, one of the most inflated. They have the highest inflated record in the NFC. 5-3 for a team with a -1 point differential. Like they have been blessed to be where they are, but Cowboys let me down last week at 5.5. I had them, and they lost by 6. So not following up on Dak Prescott, who is really proving why people criticize him for getting the contracts he does. Like typically, like last year MVP, this year complete garbage. So what do you think of this game?
By the way, at halftime of that Dallas-San Francisco game, I told Phil, I texted him, I go, hey, remember at halftime, you bet against bad teams with leads, and that's Dallas. And thank you, because that was one of my bigger payouts. Besides also for getting over and under. Those words are confusing sometimes. Anyways, I'm completely staying away from this because Atlanta's offenses look good. They also can't get a pass rush. And, Dallas does a decent job beating up on bad defenses. And I just think that Atlanta, like not having a pass rush is going to kill you at some point. And Matt Judon just hasn't been it for them. And their defense just, specifically their pass rush just has not been there. I think that Dak is someone that can beat up a team for that, but I'm just not betting on Dallas because I don't trust them at all. Zeke Elliott and Dalvin Cook were their running backs last week. Talk about complete like cool names with lack of explosion, man. It was rough. Their whole offense. I mean, it's CeeDee Lamb, then Jake Ferguson looked pretty cool out there too. But that is it. I mean, it's looked pretty rough.
So I gotta say, I'm looking at the PFF chart for like the Dallas defense. It's pitiful. Drake London is gonna have, or Darnell Mooney are gonna have monster games. So I think this is gonna be a good game.
Pitts or Bijan. I mean,
no. This is one of those games where it's like maybe the Dallas defense is just gonna triple team whoever, and someone else is gonna go off. Like the Darnell Mooney 60-yard touchdown. I know it was Kyle Pitts last week, but he can't do it twice in a row. All right, that's just how it works. I will say, guys, I'm going to be looking at for huge like alt lines in their prop bets is going to be Jalen Tolbert and Kevontae Turbin.
I do like Jalen Tolbert more than Turbin.
Yeah, is it because Turbin got hit in the freaking face with the ball and dropped it? Was that Turbin? I think it was on that
Turbin,
last.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess you can't yell at him too much because the 49ers player did the same thing last week. I guess on that same drive, 2 plays earlier. I was actually laughing with the guy at work because I was like, dude, Dak threw 3 great passes. One was to the 49er. The second one was out of bounds, but it was still almost picked off because a 49er was like, he was just standing out of bounds when the ball was thrown to him. And then the last one was, of course, a 40-yard perfect dime to his own player that didn't end up working out. But man, 51.5, that, like, it sounds like it's too much, but I could see this being a game where Atlanta is up 14-0 to start, and then Dallas is down like 30-10 going into the fourth and gets 2 touchdowns. I don't know. This is when I was telling you I might like as a there's that
touchdown field goal, both halves.
Touchdown field goal in each half at like plus 15. If it's over like plus 1600, that might just be a fun one where if you have like a small bet with like a boost on it, like sometimes you get the $10 bet with a 50% boost. Look at that. Now it's a 24-1 payout. Anyways, let's go on. Miami versus Buffalo. Tua came back, and it meant very little for Miami as they lost to Arizona last week, and Buffalo just beat the dirt out of Seattle without DK Metcalf. Now Buffalo's a 6-point home favorite, and the total is 49.5. What are you looking for in this game? Anything from the Dolphins or the Bills?
Well, I'm staying out of it. I will be watching for my entire fantasy team because I have a bunch of Dolphins, and somehow these teams are still in it somehow. But the main thing is last time these two teams played, Buffalo completely dominated them before Tua went out. And then after Tua went out, they continued to completely dominate them. Like Miami couldn't get anything going running. Buffalo ran all over their defense. Miami's defense has certainly stepped it up because they had to, because the offense completely died without Tua. But I think it'd be more interesting to see. It's just one of those, it's a divisional game. I am not excited to see, it could go any which way. It wouldn't surprise me. This game could be, a bruise out under, or this could be a 35-32 game, and none of that would surprise me. I don't have a good read. I'm out.
So I don't understand this, but a lot of teams have not been finding good ways to attack the linebackers and the safeties the Bills have in coverage. The only team that did it was the Ravens, and they made the Bills look super silly, right? They absolutely were Zay Flowers in the slot, ripping some safety or linebacker to shreds, running motion so that you have Derrick Henry going against the linebacker like in the hole, and it doesn't matter because their linebackers suck. I don't know why other teams can't do it. It's literally blowing my mind, but I think Mike McDaniel will put in the tape and be like, hey, Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, you guys are going to feast this game. And we'll be sneaky. Jonnu Smith has been a big target for the Dolphins, so I think he's going to have a big game. I just think these teams, 34-10 on like a first divisional round matchup, or the first time they met. I just think that's way too like overreactionary to Buffalo, and I don't think either of these teams can stop each other. So I'm taking the over at 49.5. It's about time Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle started to show up again, because they're just too good to. And I know backup quarterback play. They're just too good to be held down for this long. So Mike McDaniel better, now that he has Tua for a second week, get back into the creative, back to the drawing board, come up with better plays and make good things happen.
I'm happy to jump on that one week late.
Fair enough. Also, I will say, Bills wide receivers, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakur, have looked great recently.
Mark Cooper, man, he's taken all the good players off of him. That's it.
Cooper's had some solid plays, but Coleman was one of my alt props I hit 2 weeks ago. He waited till like the very last drive, and it was like, why aren't they running? And they had a 50-yard pass to Coleman to cover. So now we have Chargers versus the Browns. You and I are staying away because we watched the Browns be successful. And I want to take Cleveland because I am not sold on what the Chargers have been doing at all. But Cleveland is a 2-point home dog, and the total's 42.5. Like, over because Jameis is in, and Browns +2. It just sounds so like appetizing, but I just can't do it. Gotta stay away.
So number one, the Chargers have been throwing the ball more, and it is certainly starting to open up. I will tell you, I know unpopular opinion right now, but J.K. Dobbins, I was wrong. I did not think he'd make it this far in, but he is losing explosiveness. I'm sorry, if you look at his yards per carry are falling down.
I was gonna say, are you gonna tell me the guy who I'm pulling up his game log right now? What did he start the season with? Like 2 100-yard plus games?
Something
he
like
had
that.
135, 131, and he's had one game over 60 since.
Yeah,
like under 3.5 yards per carry in most of the games.
Yes, and I just he's had too many injuries, and his knee's just going to randomly swell at some point here. I have that. What is it? Kimani Vidal,
yeah,
on most of my fantasy teams, because as long as Gus Edwards out, like J.K. Dobbins is not making it the whole year. But no, the Chargers have looked a lot more functional. I still am a believer in Justin Herbert, but problem is this is a game where all of a sudden, the Browns are getting this respect in these lines. They're Winston. What a difference a quarterback makes. Oh my God. All of a sudden, the defense isn't on the field 90% of the game.
I got to talk about this real quick. Just real quick. People are always like, when you go from your starter to a backup, like Derek Carr couldn't have been worth like 6 points to a spread. And Spencer Rattler came. I'm like, no, that's how bad Spencer Rattler is. I think that's the same thing with Jameis, but the other way, it's like, no. Jameis being a replacement level quarterback gave the points like 7 points towards the spread. That's how bad Deshaun was. So like with Deshaun in this game, I would be taking Chargers minus like 6 or 7.
For sure. No, 100%. But the problem is the Chargers have just played some boring, we're going to capitalize off your mistake football. And they're going to try to let Jameis make a mistake. And Jameis is going to try to make a mistake. It's just the way he plays. It'll be a little bit exciting. But I kind of like the over in this little more that we're talking about it, just because Jameis might throw a pick 6. He might throw a pick in Browns territory. And then Herbert is opening up a little bit more. But, I mean, the Browns defense looked rejuvenated as they didn't have to play 90% of the game. Every part of the offense just looked better when you have a guy who can just make multiple level throws. You didn't see any 0 for 18 on third downs or anything like any ridiculous stats like that from Jameis. You just got him playing some decent ball. So I will happily be watching this one, and it's Browns, and I will actually be watching it, unlike when Deshaun was in.
So I got to ask, I don't know if we said this when we were recording or not, but Houston versus New York, we said, what would be sneaky good is if you did Houston +9, so a 7-point tease, and then total under 49.5. What about something like that with the Browns, where you have Browns +9 and then total over 35.5?
For sure. This isn't a betting podcast, so I didn't really want to talk about it too much, but I have a few teases that I like. But Houston's one. I try to just generally stay away from the Browns when I bet, because I just want to watch the game here, not with the wallet. But no, that's certainly a good one. Any of these like lower totals going down in the total and then up for the team that's the short underdog, great. Love it.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things when you think about it, like if you have Joe Flacco or Jameis and you say the total's 35.5, it's like cash that in right now, which is why I'm like, hey, that combination sounds pretty sweet. But again, I could also see Jameis, the total hitting at 48 and Jameis throwing 3 touchdowns to the Chargers.
And that totally can happen. Absolutely.
So the Browns O-line does suck, and I don't know if but is Bosa healthy? Things we should know.
One.
It looks like he is marked as PFF expects him to play. So if Bosa and Khalil Mack are bearing down on him, that could be a rough day for the Browns. But anyways, we are both staying away, like we said, because we saw Jameis. The Browns shouldn't have won that game. Kyle Hamilton should have another pick, because that was literally like right in his face, that ball. And
in that same game, Lamar threw 3 passes that absolutely could have been picks, and one of them was in the end zone. One of them would have put the Browns in the red zone. It happens. That one was bad.
I was gonna say, I also got a message when the Ravens traded for Deontay, like, hey, this is why the Ravens traded for him. And it's Lamar throwing a 50-yard pass, hitting his receiver in the face mask, and the ball rolling over on the ground. And
that
no one was
exact same thing happened to the Browns too, man. That sunlight coming in was rough.
That's why we're getting a dome. Anyways, all right. So yeah, staying away, but I like, it's nice that the Browns are at least like a functional team to watch. Yeah. It is unfortunate they're playing the Chargers, who in my opinion are bottom 5 team to watch, because it's just rough. But Kamani Vidal, he is another one. I've been wrong 2 weeks in a row, but I'm still holding out for his 50-plus yard prop to hit, essentially, when he gets carry of 30 yards in one game, which will happen. The dude's got good burst. Just hasn't happened yet.
All JK, right. He's going to go down at some point. Don't worry.
All right, next up we have Washington versus New York. Now, you and I don't have this, but I might change my mind by the end of this talk. Washington is a 3.5-point road favorite in New York, and the total's 43.5.
So Daniel Jones has only played good against one team in his entire career, and repeatedly it's Washington. And they're at home, especially. I'd have to take check out that game from last week for Washington again, because I just want to see Jaden Daniels, see how he's moving at least.
I don't know. Did you see that touchdown? It's called like a Hail Mary that was perfect.
Oh, you mean the most embarrassing thing that the Bears have done recently? Yeah. Oh man, what a bad play for them. It's just but he only had one more. But I mean, they weren't able to score. They weren't putting it up like they had been in the past, or pretty much every other game this season. But it's another one of those. It's a division game. The Giants, for some reason, play good against them, but I'm just out in general. I just don't know what I'm going to get with Daniel Jones.
That is an act. Like, my thing is, he had a good game last week, therefore it can't happen again. I will say, in general, Washington's turnaround defensively might be one of like the biggest achievements for any team this year, where it went from, in my opinion, just awful, terrible defense, right? The first couple weeks they were getting marched up and down on. I'm trying to think. The Giants had 3 touchdowns, but they didn't have a field goal kicker. Otherwise, they could have beat the Commanders. And then who was week 1? They got, the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers feasted on the Commanders. So did the Bengals. But ever since that Bengals game, man, this defense has looked pretty legit. Lamar Jackson's been the only guy to tear him up. So this is why I told you I might be talking myself into it, because Jaden Daniels is a beast. I think they're going to be able to run on the Giants, and if he can just make a couple big throws, it'll remind me of the Steelers game where Daniel Jones is going to be asked to throw, and then it's going to look terrible because Daniel Jones is throwing the ball. So you know what I'm doing it. Washington minus 3.5.
And we were talking about it beforehand. One kind of big injury, Tyrone Tracy, a concussion on Monday night. It's just really hard to get through protocol, with an injury Monday night. Usually those players are out for a week. I don't, there's like the independent evaluation, but Malik Neighbors missed 2 weeks because of his concussion. I think there were some concerts involved too, which probably didn't help. But
loud noise, bright flashing lights, right? Like what's better for a concussion?
But Tyrone Tracy's looks so good for them, and Devin Singletary continues to look like Devin Singletary. Like, oh, all right. Like, don't hate that he's in there, but you could do better.
So one, I didn't know Tracy was 25 years old. I'm on Football Reference right now, and he's averaging 5.2 yards per carry compared to 4.0 for Singletary. It's a major loss.
Yeah, Tyrone Tracy runs angry, man. I love it.
He doesn't look big either. Like,
no.
He just goes though. So I'm in Washington minus 3.5. I'm gonna have to find something else, but you'll probably talk me into something else as we go. Chicago versus Arizona. So it is awesome working with people in a Chicago office right now. So because like I'm on the phone with them every day and we're talking about it, and it's hilarious. Just like the frustration with Caleb Williams is supposed to be so good, but it's such a letdown, but we're still kind of happy because we're 4-3. And then Arizona, I really wish I knew what Arizona team was going to show up each week. I think they are the most unpredictable team I've ever seen, because 2 weeks ago, who were they playing? The Chargers. They're playing the Chargers. They couldn't do anything all game. And then fourth quarter hits, Kyler Murray, 50-yard touchdown run. And then like a 60-play drive or 60-yard drive to get the game-winning field goal, and then last week they're down 20-7 or 20-3 against the Cardinals or the Dolphins. They come back and win. So I don't know. Sometimes Kyler Murray's dropping dimes, and sometimes it's just horrendous. So I'm staying as far away from these teams because for that exact reason. There's too much talent, and it could go either way.
Black Ops 6 came out a week ago. So I'm just saying that if you want to bet against Arizona, even just him hearing about it, I'm sure he's sick of it. Even if he stopped playing PlayStation and Xbox altogether, I'm sure he's sick about hearing about it. But I mean, this is one, like, if you get it, I think it all sort of depends on that Arizona offense and which one you get. I mean, I completely agree. They have weapons. I mean, Trey McBride, it was Mike Wilson, and like James Conner, like those are pretty good to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, they have weapons. They can score on anyone, but sometimes they just don't. I kind of like their defense is pretty trash. I mean, if you bet over on every Arizona game, it's not a bad bet. I kind of, if Black Ops 6 didn't come out, last Thursday, I would probably be in on the over. But I'm saying that was a rough loss for Caleb Williams. And,
not a lot of people can lose on a Hail Mary.
But it was the whole like Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams, and it absolutely didn't live up to the hype. I mean, what the final score was, 15-12 or something like that?
Dude, Caleb Williams had 3 completed passes like halfway through the fourth quarter. It was terrible.
But I mean, they've definitely shown that they can do better than that. So I wouldn't hate the over if I had to go somewhere with this.
If I had to go somewhere with this, it would definitely be like off a bridge. Yeah, I'm not touching this game at all.
I'd watch it, but realistically, we're watching highlight reels of this game. Like we'll watch the big plays that Kyler does, big plays that Caleb Williams does, and we'll be happy.
I was gonna say we'll either it will either show up on my red zone a whole bunch or it won't show up at all. There is no middle ground. All right, so next up, Jacksonville versus Philly, and man, dude, Philly put the beat down on
Cincy.
The Bengals last week, and Devonta Smith, AJ Brown started to look good. And then the Jaguars, actually, they played competitive football against the Packers, and they were fortunate to have Jordan Love go down, but then still blew it. Malik Willis was 5 for 6 for like 50 yards and a touchdown. Just you can't let that happen if you're trying to be a real football team. Now Jacksonville is without its receivers against what is an offense with like the best weapons in the game. So what are you looking for in this game?
So I'm not sure what Jacksonville's going to do at running back because they have Tank Bigsby and they have Travis Etienne, and those are their only playmakers left on their team. Because we were talking about it before, and Christian Kirk, he's out for the year, broken collarbone. Brian Thomas is out. I believe it's 2 to 4 weeks. I don't remember what his injury was, but it was enough where it was like potential IR. And yes, those two were doing a fine job, being playmakers for him. But Tank Bigsby is a dead runner. He's nothing. He doesn't have much coming out of the backfield. Travis Etienne.
You don't like Bigsby?
No. I like him. I like him. Just he's not a pass catcher.
Oh, that's correct. He's a terrifying runner, though, man. Him and Tyrone Tracy.
So
if I'm ever in a fight, those are the guys I want.
Evan Ingram, I mean, is their only pass catcher that's still remaining. I'm not gonna include Gabe Davis in that, but Philly's coming off of 2 monster wins. I mean, 28-3 against the Giants. They won by 20 against Cincy. This is one of my tease specials, man. I think the 7.5 is just real large. Philly's defense has done pretty good recently. I still don't believe them because they've looked so bad in the games earlier in the year where they lost, and I mean, so awful. I mean, teams have been able to run on Philadelphia besides these last 2 weeks, and Jacksonville, I mean, Tank Bigsby has looked great as a runner. So I don't think they'll be able to keep up with Philly. I think that the Jacksonville defense has too many holes, but I like teasing Philly down. So usually is it 6-point teasers? 6
or 7.
Yeah. So 1.5, anything under 3, I'm fine.
All right. Yeah. Philly is just one of those teams. Like, I feel like I should like them way more, but they're starting to feel a lot like Dallas to me, where you're just waiting for them to make a mistake whenever they play. Even if they could be putting up 40, but it's like, hey, this team might blow this game. So it's interesting to see. I'm curious how they do against Jacksonville, if they can put him away early the way they did New York 2 weeks ago. Moving on, we have the Rams versus the Seahawks. The Rams are officially back to being a real football team because they're healthy again. I got burned by them last week because Puka actually played. Every report was limited snap count, and he came out and was the best player on the field. So now they actually get him probably at 100% with a full additional rest because they played on Thursday. And Cooper Kupp, I think I'm talking myself into Rams -1.5. I will monitor for DK Metcalf because I think he's a big game changer for Seattle. But man, Seattle's defense isn't what it should be. And without DK, like stretching the field and being a difference maker, the Seahawks offense has just looked awful. What do you think?
I agree, especially having DK Metcalf on one of my fantasy teams. I will tell you that offense does not look the same without him. And they don't have three, number one receivers. They have DK Metcalf and then two really good twos is how I see it. With the Rams, I wish Connor was on here because I had a drafted text into our group chat, which is like, how is Puka Nacua so good? I don't get it. He does not look explosive. He doesn't look like he gets tons of separation when he plays, but they get him the ball and it just works every time. Cooper Kupp at least looks like he gets like separation out there. I don't know, but that Rams team just looks, their offense is so fun to watch when they have those two. Kyron Williams, who is just a good running back. That's all it is. It's like he hits holes, he runs hard, and he never, every time it's like a 4-yard gain, he gets 6. He just does the extra little bit. Dude, every time.
For a guy who's 5'9", 190, like he doesn't go down easy.
No.
Doesn't make any sense.
Man, I don't get this whole offense, but it just looks so good and so fun to watch. It's just, it's another one of those, it's a divisional game where sometimes like Seattle just plays really good against the Rams, against Sean McVay. But the offense hasn't been good, hasn't been that great. 48.5, quite a large number. I think this is one that would be fun to watch, but I'll be watching, not betting.
All right, you talked me into it. I'm doing Rams -1.5. I've been against them all year, and they've been burning me, so might as well jump on. I needed something to fill in, and based on our conversations, I have my pick for Sunday night, and I'm not touching Monday night, which brings us to the last 4 o'clock game, actually. Detroit versus Green Bay, and man, did I want to take Green Bay +3.5. My thought was that is despite Jordan Love being on the field, but clearly that is maybe that's not the expectation of the game. You have under 48.5. Why are you doing that?
I feel like this is the one I'd be able to talk you into, but we have done this for too long. We know that Detroit covers and Detroit goes under in games with good opponents. They they can beat people up. They play with their food a little bit. Oh my God, that Dallas game where they were just like, oh, I'm going to try 6 different passes to the lineman. I love it, by the way.
By the way, following up on that, the game against Dallas, did you see that where once they were up by enough, they ran like 6 or 7 different plays with their backups and showed like they put like linemen split out and they threw passes to linemen just to mess with it. I love it.
That was great. But against good teams, they like to take the ball, really use David Montgomery, and just get 4 yards every carry. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs has looked great. David Montgomery, honestly, I like watching him. I think he runs hard too. He's not as angry as the other ones. But I think that this is going to be one of those classic NFC North. We're going to take the ball. We're going to have long drives. Maybe we'll get touchdowns. Maybe, we'll get field goals. But it's going to be a slower game, slower pace. I don't think you're going to see any of those like huge plays. Especially from, Green Bay, Jordan Love. If he does play, it's with this groin injury. And I mean, he played through the knee. I mean, they've been doing well. I would think that they hold him out, but with that groin, you're not going to get like the explosive downfield throws as much. Like those are going to hurt him a bit. Most people sit out it's like 1.5 week injury, these groin injuries. But I think that Josh Jacobs has done really, what they want him to there, where it's like, hey, We need the ground and pound type of player. But I think you're just going to have a few people not making mistakes, controlling the ball, and playing a bit more conservative, because that's what Detroit does against these like tough opponents. 48.5 is a big number.
So I would absolutely love to see these teams play against each other, because I think they come in like at full health. They come in with very similar mindsets. They want to run the ball and they want to set up play action deep passes. And they both have like Jair Alexander's on the Packers. Besides that, there is no corner. And then the Lions corners have been, they have Brian Branch. But besides him, there's no corner. So like it would have just been fun to actually see that. My hesitation for this game is actually that Jared Goff is going to be outside and it will be raining in Green Bay. Everyone knows when you get him outside in the cold, and yes, 50 degrees and below is cold for Mr. I grew up in California. And it's wet. I am just, that under actually sounds pretty good because I don't trust Malik Willis either.
You're talking yourself into the under right now.
Maybe I'm dropping the Rams and pulling up the under. I don't know. Change my mind by the end. We'll see how lines move.
Take them both. I really thought I could get you with that.
Actually, I said the Rams. I got to watch for DK Metcalf before I do anything there. If Metcalf is healthy, I bet the Rams go to. It would. I think the line would actually move towards Seattle, so the Rams might get to like a pick 'em or Rams plus 1.5. Anyways, but we'll see. We'll by the end of the week, which it won't be recorded and no one will ever know. But anyways, no one listens, so no one knows anyway. Anyways, let's keep going. Indianapolis versus Minnesota. Minnesota is a 5.5 point home favorite with the total at 46.5. It just came in today that Anthony Richardson is getting benched, and he was very impressive. He only completed about 45% of his passes, which that's just awful. I loved his big cannon arm and his mobility, but if you watch, they played Houston last week, and he really did everything he could to lose that game. Like it was very, very bad. So you have the over. Why do you got the over?
Pretty simple. Joe Flacco's in, baby. I gotta tell you, so this Indy offense, I'm kind of similar. Not really even to the Browns, but they have weapons, man. Jonathan Taylor looks good. I think he's number 1 in RBs and explosive rate. Josh Downs has just been great, and I like Michael Pittman Jr. I know he's playing hurt. I know you hate him for some reason, but Alec Pierce is like, oh, by the way, I just catch all the deep balls. It's just my thing. I'll catch 3 or 4 this year, and they'll be for 70 yards each. But Minnesota, we'll see. I mean, they're just throwing so many of these like blitz packages. I think that eventually, not that you necessarily run out of these creative blitz packages, but Joe Flacco's seen it, man. He's been out there for a long time. But I think this offense just clicks. I think they have weapons, and kind of similar to Minnesota. I think that there's just enough weapons where it's going to be a fun game to watch with this 46.5.
So, one, I don't hate Michael Pittman. I just think that his stats are inflated, and he's a very average wide. Like he's like a B+ wide receiver, and I think Josh Downs is as good as him. That's it. And it was discussion on fantasy football price, and Josh Downs was like undrafted, and Pittman was like a top 5 round receiver. Of course, I argued against him. But anyways, I'm with you, dude. So I think the Vikings are getting a bit of a bad rap, and it's because MVP Sam Darnold has not looked like MVP Sam Darnold. I think they bounce back, though. Indy, I just don't think they're a good football team at all. However, I do think Flacco obviously raises the scoring floor by throwing those 50-50 balls. But the over at 46.5 is also nice because the Vikings have the most aggressive team. Brian Flores is bringing the heat. And when you do that against a quarterback like Flacco, he's going to throw the ball either into coverage or to someone open. There's going to be lots of big plays, whether it's interceptions, sacks, strip sacks, and things like that. So big plays like that play into the over. So I think the Vikings come out, score, and the Colts can come out and score. Or if they don't, Flacco will be throwing some garbage time, and it'll just inflate the numbers. So excited to see what happens either way. This is actually a Sunday night game that I think shouldn't be entertaining because it's like a good team versus a bad team, but will be. So I'm actually happy that this is the Sunday night game instead of some of the things we've gotten. So moving on to the last game of the week. Tampa Bay versus Kansas City, and another primetime game for Kansas City. Another game they are heavy favorites, 8.5-point home favorites with a total of 45.5. So neither of us have picks. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I hate Baker, and I have a lot of bets on Baker throughout this whole season. I kind of want to take him and the Buccaneers because I have been very unenthused by what Kansas City has shown offensively to cover like over a touchdown spread.
Yeah, but Tampa Bay can't stop anyone recently. I mean, their defense, it's Vita Vea, and then it's 10 other people out there. It has not been good. I mean, who did they just, I mean,
The
they just gave up.
carved him up.
Falcons carved them up. I know they beat New Orleans, but even they started scoring on them with a backup eventually. It's just been real ugly for him. So 8.5 is too big to take Kansas City. This is another one. Love to tease it down. If I can get that under 3, I'm happy. I just don't. I mean, Kansas City's offense has certainly, left so much out there. DeAndre Hopkins gets another week with him. I don't necessarily think DeAndre Hopkins is the answer for him, but I don't think he fits into what Andy Reid does. Andy Reid likes receivers that can get some yard after the catch, but I don't know. I think it'll be sort of an ugly game. Man, if Godwin and Evans were still here, it'd be great. This line, if you have both of those, what do you think it is? Like 4.5, maybe?
I was gonna say 4.5, 5.5.
Yeah. But you just don't know what you're getting. And Spagnola's just been so good. It's like, I see that you're missing very key parts of your offense, and I'm not going to let you throw it to Kate Otten, and I'm not going to let you throw it to these running backs. And what are you going to do? I think that this is going to be a rough game for Baker.
So I was excited. I thought great opportunity last week with the receivers out. Pick my wide receiver in Tampa Bay that I thought would go off, and I thought Sterling Shepard for sure. He was a sneaky pick because McMillan plays outside, and so does Palmer. They're kind of deep threats, big athletes, and I'm like, Sterling Shepard plays in the slot. That could be a good pick. And then freaking Baker did target where slot receivers should go, but it was just 100 targets to Cade Otton and Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, and it was a major heartbreak. So I don't know what Tampa Bay does if they just continue not to trust receivers, and if you do that, like, it's just going to be ugly because like you said, the Chiefs will probably just leave everyone one-on-one on the outside and say, hey, beat our corners, which no one's going to beat Trent McDuffie or whoever their top corner. And then I don't even know who the other guy is, but it probably doesn't matter. So like I don't care if Trey Palmer can't beat anyone. He can go long and fast in a straight line. So I don't know. It's just so hard to give Kansas City 8.5 points, man. They seem like
they don't deserve it. No, they shouldn't be 8.5 point on. They just beat Las Vegas by 7, and they tried. I mean, they had a pick on their 10-yard line or something like that. I mean, they really tried to lose that game.
Yeah, speaking of that, actually, I saw Mahomes is he's no longer the favorite. Going into last week, he was the favorite to win MVP.
Is it Josh Allen? It has to be Josh Allen.
It's Josh Allen and then Lamar Jackson. Jaden Daniels, man, plus 900. I know it's not as good as it was at the beginning of the year. That's not bad. Anyways.
Give it to Josh Allen, man. The guy's come in second place for 8 years. Just give it to him.
All right, Mr. Participation Trophy. Always freaking yelling at us about that crap. And you're like, no, just give it to this guy.
For being the second best quarterback for a decade? Sure.
I mean, I guess Joel Embiid got his for 2 second place finishes.
Anyways. We'll call it the Drew Brees Award. Just give it to him once.
At some point, this guy deserves it. He needs one on his shelf. The Lifetime Achievement MVP Award. Yeah.
Speaking of which, by the way, Denver tied it up.
They were winning a second ago.
Oh, you're watching it? Yeah.
No, I did not take any picks on it, but I have been curious to see if they actually come back.
Mm-hmm.
So Russell Westbrook is 22, man. You hated on him.
Oh, bet Brooklyn then, because
no one else is doing anything, and he's not going to close. Anyways, all right. I think we did it. So under an hour in time, we've been on talking way more than that, but we did all right. Cedric Tillman, If you don't have him in fantasy, go get him. I think he's the number one beneficiary. I got nothing else though.
Sometime next 4 to 6 weeks, Kimani Vidal. I think that he's gonna be a top pickup at some point. We still have this JJ Watt rookie card.
If you're listening, then you should subscribe because you made it this far.
We'll probably just end up giving it to our listener at one point.
At some point. Don't worry, I believe in us to start growing. Actually, I don't. It turns out that my new job, the busy season, is September through November. You know, right when I'm needed to do stuff for this. So
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening. If you're still here, I'm gonna hit stop. That way, we are done before an hour.